Thanks for joining us, National Chief Woodhouse Nepinak. Can you tell our viewers first, what were some of the topics you brought up with the premiers today?
Absolutely. Look, I think first of all, it was tough for me to come here because I'd had a discussion with our elders and our chiefs last week, because national chiefs before me, they come to this meeting, it's, the day before, and then we're kind of kicked out and sent packing. And I echoed that to the premiers today around the table. And I know that it was uncomfortable for them to hear that, but it's the truth. And I just told them, I said, it's so important that First Nations people have a proper full seat around the table. And you want to come in here and you want to talk about big projects. And, at the same time, we need to talk about some uncomfortable truths when it comes to our people, like our little kids on First Nations communities that may not have access to clean drinking water, or proper paved roads, or high-speed internet, or that $350 billion infrastructure gap that that First Nations experienced. And I know that maybe this country doesn't want to always talk about those things, but that's the reality for many of our people. I know four flying communities, for instance, in the northern part of this country that don't have a hospital yet, and yet there's 15,000 of them that are there. And so I talked about all those uncomfortable, hard truths, and that the prosperity of this country, that First Nations have been very generous by sharing of the land. And, a lot of people have done well coming over to this country, but First Nations were have been foundational creators and partners in the creation of Canada. First Nations and the Crown created this country. And of course, you have all the provinces as well. And we're all a family. Nobody's going anywhere anymore. So we have to try and find a different way forward. So I did challenge them to a First Ministers meeting. And we built consensus, of course, around the table that they would have a First Ministers meeting, that they will put that request to the Prime Minister to begin, dialogue and working on, of course, a First Ministers meeting with First Nations people on economic reconciliation and, finding the path forward in this country.
And Cindy, what about Bill 5 and Bill C5? Did you get a sense the premiers understand the concerns First Nations have with these two pieces of legislation? And do they want to work with First Nations on future projects?
Oh, I think everybody was there to try and, show respect towards First Nations. But I told them, I said, if you really want to show respect, give us a full seat at the table. And I think that now is the time. It's 2025. And we've done a lot of work and progress over the past 40 years in this country, but we have a long way to go still. There's so many gaps that exist. And I think that we deserve a full seat at that table. I know that they're meeting again tomorrow. And, like National Chiefs have said before me, where's our seat?
Can you also speak to the Prime Minister's meeting last week really quickly here? What was your sense from the meeting? There was chiefs on one side saying that they didn't agree with the meeting, how it was rolled out and dished out too quickly, too soon. What is your takeaway from that meeting?
Look, I think it was important. The problem is we have the last time that the Prime Minister and First Nations had met was 13 years ago. And I think that that's too far apart. And I know when I talked to the Prime Minister when he first elected, just a few months ago, I pushed him to make sure that he meets with First Nations chiefs on these issues, plus on other issues that this country faces, our country faces. We want to make things, of course, always better for everybody, but at the same time, not having a full seat, like, at the First Ministers meeting tomorrow, or, at the Council of the Federation tomorrow, it makes it tough. And I just, that's why I came today. The elders had told me to come along with some of our leadership that said, go, even though, it seems like you're always trying go. So that I did, I challenged them today to have a First Ministers meeting. So I think let's work towards that and put our issues on the table. And how do we want to see this country change for the better so that our grandchildren 30 years from now are not having these same discussions. And let's close that infrastructure gap once and for all. I know that it's a big number of $350 billion, but a little child on a First Nation community deserves a good education, a safe community, a good home, access to clean drinking water, access for their parents to have good jobs and good security, and access to the banking system. Like, there's so many things that, when you're on reserve that are harder for you as a family than off reserve, or access even to something like hospitals, for instance, like I had said, with those 15,000 people in one area. What country or what community or town would take up with that, or for how long that they have such beautiful people, but they deserve better. And I think of our people like that, and that they deserve a better life in their own homeland.
National Chief, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.